Once upon a time, in the faraway land of Los Angeles, there lived a widowed man and his 3 daughters. Out of the 3 daughters, the youngest stood out for her remarkable attributes, while the other 2 were more well known for their bad reps. Beyonce, the youngest daughter, was kind, smart, and incredibly talented. The other 2 daughters, Kelly and Michelle, were jealous girls who didn't respect their father. The middle-aged father, once a well-paid fitness trainer, lost his job due to the downturn economy. When a financial opportunity arose, the father decided to take a chance and try it out.
He left Beyonce in charge of the house and her sisters because she was the most responsible, even though she was the youngest. Beyonce was terribly upset because she did not want to say goodbye to her father, and as she sat in her bedroom, she could hear the 2 obnoxious sisters begging their father to bring them back something expensive.
When she made her way downstairs to say goodbye to her father, he asked her if there was anything he could bring back for her. Though Beyonce usually would say no to any gifts, this time was different. She asked her father for a ring with her birthstone, which was ruby. After saying goodbye to his daughters, the father left their home and headed toward Hollywood to pursue a fitness training job. He had come across a job opportunity online, and it was exactly what he was looking for. As he made his way to the address that he had found online, he realized that he was running low on gas. In the rush hour traffic that lay ahead of him, he had no idea when or where he would be able to get the gas, but he was hopeful that he would make it to the client's house anyways. Unfortunately, he ran out of gas sooner than he had expected and ended up leaving his car on the side of the road. He figured that the address wouldn't be too much farther, so he decided that he would walk the rest of the way. As he started his trek towards Hollywood and the address, he heard the faint rumblings of thunder. Before he knew it, it was pouring rain, and he was running and searching for the street name.
After walking 3 miles, he finally found the house. It was an enormously large house set behind a pair of huge black gates. The house was dark and gloomy. He recognized that it most likely looked this way when it wasn't raining as well. As he approached the gates, they automatically opened, as if they were anticipating his arrival. He hesitantly walked through the gates and up the amazingly long driveway that led up the entrance of the magnificent house. He knocked on the door 3 times, and after waiting a few seconds, it was finally opened. Beyond it stood a plain-looking butler. The butler led him to a fitness room, where an angry-looking man was standing in the doorway, clearly annoyed with the poor father's tardiness. The beast was one of the rudest people the father has ever met. He spent more than half of their session replying to emails from his phone and taking calls from his office. The father could tell that he was only interested in his work, and he didn't seem to care about much else.
Besides the beast's incessant business talk, the session went well. That wasn't until the father accidentally dropped one of the weights on the beast's foot. The dad offered to go to the kitchen to get ice because he felt bad about dropping it on his foot. The beast told him the directions to get to the kitchen. As the father made his way to the kitchen, he passed the large dining table, through a corridor with a table full of jewelry. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a ruby red ring, like what Beyonce had asked for. Since there were a large variety of jewelry, he figured that the beast wouldn't notice that the ruby ring was missing. The dad got to the kitchen, got the ice, and made his way back to the fitness room. When he was giving the ice to the beast, the ring fell out of his pocket. If it wasn't bad enough that the father had dropped the weight on his foot, the beast was even more enraged when he saw the ring. The beast tried to quickly usher the father out of the room, but as soon as he took a step, he yelled out in pain because he couldn't walk. The beast yelled at the father for taking the ring, and then again for dropping the weight on his foot. He knew that he would not be able to work with its injury. The father offered to stay and help the beast, but instead the beast asked who the ring was for. When the father responded by telling him that his youngest daughter had asked for a ruby ring, the beast decided that he would much rather have his daughter come and help him. Hesitant, the father agreed because he knew that his daughter was mature enough to go off on her own and help the beast. When the father returned home, he told his family all about how his car had broken down, and how he ended up at the movie producer's house, and how he had dropped the weight and taken the ring for Beyonce. He continued to tell them about the agreement he had made with the beast and how sorry he was that Beyonce was the one who had to go instead of him. Beyonce, being as mature as she was, agreed to go in her father's place, even though she knew that she would miss her father terribly. She packed up her things and quickly said goodbye to her 2 mean sisters, and then finally said goodbye to her worried father. She assured him that she would be fine and that she would be back before he knew it. Not wanting to waste any more time, Beyonce hopped in the car and made her way to Hollywood. Finally, she got to the huge house. She walked up the long driveway and was greeted by the same butler that her father had described. Beyonce entered the house and was brought into a large office. She waited there for hour after hour for the Beast to tell her what he would like her to do, but he didn't show up. It wasn't until later that she met the Beast at dinner. He was very serious and seemed to be distracted with his work, so she ate in silence and then made her way to her room to sleep. Her days continued for the next week, working in the Beast's office, answering his calls and doing his paperwork during the day, and joining him for dinner each night. As their nights progressed, the Beast began to fall in love with Beyonce, and each night he would ask her to move in and stay with him forever. But Beyonce said no every night because she longed to be back at home with her father, and she could not stand how obsessed the Beast was with his work. After a week had passed, Beyonce received a call saying that her father was sick, and she decided that she needed to go home immediately to check on him. The Beast agreed to let her go, knowing that it would make her happy. He requested that she return to him in 3 days, and assured her that if she didn't do so, he would surely be heartbroken. Beyonce agreed to his request, not wanting to see him unhappy. Beyonce packed her things to head home, and on her way out, the Beast handed her his cell phone, and said that when she wanted to come back to his home, all she had to do was call, and she would immediately be brought back. Beyonce returned home and was happier than ever to see her father. To her surprise, her 2 conniving sisters seemed to be on better behavior than she remembered. They were excessively kind to her, offering to do her chores and begging her to stay with them forever. But her sisters were not being kind out of true kindness. They were just trying to get her in trouble with the Beast because they were very jealous of her. Even though it was out of character from her sisters, she appreciated the love that they were giving her and ended up staying 2 days longer than she had promised the Beast. But on the second extra night, while Beyonce lay sleeping in her bed, she had a terrible nightmare that the Beast was in trouble, and he needed her help. Frightened by her dream, she decided that it would be best to return to the Beast's house as soon as possible, and so she took out his cell phone and hit the call button. She left a note on the counter for her father, and before she knew it, she was back at the Beast's mansion. Beyonce made her way around the mansion searching for the Beast. She finally found him sitting outside in his garden crying. She could not believe her eyes. This man who seemed so mean and self-absorbed was crying because he missed her. She quickly made her way over to him and put her hand on his shoulder. When she did so, the Beast looked up at her with watery eyes that were stained with a red color that looked like it must have been there for hours. Seeing the pure pain in his eyes, she lightly took her hand and wiped away his tears. For the first time since she arrived at the mansion, she realized that the Beast was sweet and sensitive, and when he wasn't yelling or talking business, he was actually very attractive. And at that moment, Beyonce leant down and kissed the Beast and told him that she loved him and she never wanted to leave him again. Slowly the redness began to subside in the Beast's eyes, and he began to smile and told her that he loved her too. Beyonce and the Beast told her family of their plans to live together and how much the Beast had changed. Her father was overwhelmingly happy, but her sisters were more jealous than ever. Because of how mean they had been to her from the beginning, they got what they deserved, and they became maids at the Beast's mansion and had to see how happy their sister was every day for the rest of their life. In the end, Beyonce and the Beast lived happily ever after.
Today was a fairy tale, you were the prince. I used to be a damsel in distress. You took me by the hand and you picked me up at 6. Today it was a fairy tale.